Tonight on Fox, WWE brings to us the go-home show for their Series pay-per-view coming up this weekend. And like I mentioned in the past show, their build for Survivor Series has been lacking in quite a few areas. They haven't really made us care as much as we should care about the battle between Raw and SmackDown, the brand warfare, the battle for supremacy. We don't really care as much as we should, and that has to do with a lot of the structure that is currently in place in WWE's system. But I'm not going to get into that. I already got into that on the last show, but as of right now, we've got to turn our attentions to the one rivalry, the one match, the one feud that has been properly built up leading into the pay-per-view. And yes, it is a battle between a Raw champion and a SmackDown champion. It is a battle between the Raw Women's Champion, Becky Lynch, and the SmackDown Women's Champion, Charlotte Flair. But more so than that, it's not about Raw versus SmackDown. It's not about who's the better brand or who is the better champion on their respective show. It's not about that. It's about a rivalry that goes back to about 3 years. It's about a friendship that goes back about almost 10 years at this point. And apparently, if you believe the dirt sheets and all the wrestling news websites out there, the friendship that Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair once had might be done. It might be over with. And that happens. It's life. It's not that big of a deal when you fall out of a friendship or of a relationship with someone. That's just life. That's just how it happens. A lot of things have changed since they first became friends. Charlotte Flair has become the most decorated woman, not only in WWE history, but in professional wrestling history altogether. And Becky Lynch has become one of the highest grossing and top stars, male or female, in WWE today. She is the man after all, and when she's on television, you pay attention to that. And like I said, I had many criticisms to the placement of WWE's draft, with it being just weeks prior to Crown Jewel, prior to Survivor Series, and the rosters themselves not going into effect until after Crown Jewel. But it did give us one great segment, and that was the Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair championship, trade-off, championship swap, whatever you want to call it, which again is a joke for the WWE to do that. And it was the second time they did that, so it wasn't unheard of. But just on that point, you have to look no further than the fact that WWE would not go as far as to have a championship swap between their main titles, the WWE Championship and the Universal Championship. They would not do that with the main titles, but they do that with the branded championships because they can, and it's their rules. That's all I'm going to say about that. But in that segment, I believe over a month ago now, there was some real-life tension, there was some real-life heat that you can feel in that arena and as a fan watching at home between Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair. Now the rumors are saying that the interaction, the segment didn't go quite as planned, and Charlotte Flair went off book because she wasn't in agreement with what had happened. And honestly, I agree with Charlotte Flair there, because I believe that week prior, or that very same week, Charlotte Flair should have dropped the Raw Women's Championship to Bianca Belair, and then you should have had Becky Lynch drop the SmackDown Women's Championship without getting pinned at Crown Jewel against Sasha Banks, and have the Blueprint be the SmackDown Women's Champion right now, and that would have made it a more easy, more smooth transition for both women's championships. But nonetheless, WWE decided to protect Becky Lynch, which obviously they're going to do. It's Becky Lynch, big time Bex right now, is the number one female star, and one of the top stars on their programming. So of course they're gonna protect her in the same vein as a Roman Reigns, as they should. But as far as this match goes, this is the only match I care about in terms of story. Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair have been shooting shots at each other for the past few weeks, and each and every single show, it keeps getting better and better and better, and I just want to see them go at it. I really do. I don't care about the real life. I don't. Number one, because you can have other superstars, other dirt sheets and wrestling news websites commenting on the real life tension and real life heat between them. But at the end of the day, that's between them. It should not matter to us. But it does raise the stakes for this match, and no doubt about it, we're gonna have ourselves a fantastic match at Survivor Series between these two women. And hopefully there's a winner. Hopefully there is. And if there is a winner, I'm most likely going to be Becky Lynch, because like I said, they do not want her to get pinned or submitted. They're protecting her at all costs. So it's either Becky Lynch wins, or there's going to be a no contest, or a no DQ, or a DQ and count out fallout from that match. Nonetheless, it speaks volumes to what the WWE has done leading up to Survivor Series, when we only have one match that we actually care about. We don't care about the Raw champion versus the SmackDown champion, Reigns versus Big E, although everyone wants to see it, but they haven't built it up the way that they built up last year's title versus title match between Reigns and McIntyre. They haven't done that. The tag team titles, it's going to be one hell of an entertaining match. The Usos versus RK Bro. There's no rivalry. It doesn't matter. The Usos aren't representing SmackDown, they're representing the Bloodline. That's their prerogative. That's their narrative. That's something that we all believe at this point. One thing about Big E, though, is that over the past few weeks on Monday Night Raw, over the past few months, ever since he became WWE Champion, we've been seeing a more serious side out of him. He hasn't been quite as goofy as he once was. Certainly not as goofy as he was in the heyday of the New Day. But even then, when he first became Intercontinental Champion, or when he first became the WWE Champion, he was still as entertaining as possible. And right now, I'm not saying he's not entertaining. He's just not goofy. He's not goofing around. He's serious Big E. He's a WWE Champion Big E. And that is something that we should all be rooting for. Because like I said, you can be entertaining in many ways. And I like the route that they've taken with Big E in this case. It's not the fact, if you look closely, it's not the fact that Big E became WWE Champion and now he's serious because he's trying to represent the company and he's selling out and because he has to portray a certain image. That's not the story. That's not what's making him go serious. From my point of view, what's turning him into a more serious competitor inside the ring is the fact that he is the top guy, that he is the WWE Champion, and that he has a target on his back. A target that many superstars have set their sights on, including Bobby Lashley, who he took the title from, including Drew McIntyre, including Seth Rollins, who is now the number one contender, and now Kevin Owens. That's 4 of WWE's top stars going after you. So if you're not serious, if them going after you doesn't make you really think about it and be a serious characterization of yourself to defend that championship, then there's something wrong with the character of Big E. Characters have to evolve. Characters have to grow. And in order for that to happen, they need to stick to a story. And there's no better storyteller out there in sports entertainment than WWE. Look no further than Seth Rollins. He was Seth freaking Rollins just 2 years ago, and then the fans turned on him. And Seth Rollins, slowly but surely, he became the Monday Night Messiah. Then he was ridiculed by Rey Mysterio, causing him to go nuts. And now he's the Drip King. He's still crazy. He still does not give a shit about what the fans say or talk about him. But at the end of the day, that's the path that the fans took him on. That's the path that the story took Seth Rollins towards. And Big E, whether you like it or not, is now a serious WWE Champion, which in my opinion can only help his reign. Now as we look towards the future at Survivor Series, I think Big E takes the big L. He takes a big loss to Roman Reigns in the main event of the pay-per-view, but he does so in a way that still puts him over. He competes with the Tribal Chief. He gives the Tribal Chief a run for his money. And after that, he moves on to his rivalry with Kevin Owens. He moves on to his rivalry with Seth Rollins, which could lead to singles feuds with each and every single one of them, or it could lead to a triple threat match down the road, heading into the Royal Rumble. I mean, we're closing out the year. We're less than 2 months away from the new year, from 2022, heading into WrestleMania season, the Royal Rumble, all of that. And Survivor Series is the last pay-per-view of 2021, so WWE clearly has no rush in putting their world champions in championship matches. So if I'm a betting man, I'm betting on Big E defending his WWE Championship at the Royal Rumble in a triple threat match against Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins. That's what I'm betting on. But we'll have to wait and see. But what do you think? If you have a different opinion about this, go ahead and leave a comment below. If you have a different take on this entire stories on WWE programming or any programming out there professional wrestling wise, go ahead and send me an email to acbwrestlingtalk.com, and we'll take that topic that you send us and make it one of the main topics on this show right here, Wrestling Talk. And last but not least, let's talk about the main SmackDown feud. Roman Reigns, the Universal Champion, the Tribal Chief, the head of the table, against the King of the Ring, Xavier Woods. King Woods. One question that I have to ask myself here is, can Roman Reigns elevate King Woods? Can he get him to be a top performer for WWE? A high-profile name in every sense of the word. Because King Woods, again, he was part of the New Day. He certainly still is, which still makes him very entertaining. He's very much the anchor to WWE programming. Just like Kofi Kingston, just like Big E, just like those three were a part of that group. They were all the anchor of WWE programming, giving us the entertainment that we needed. And it didn't matter how many times we saw him on TV. It never got old because it was always fun and energetic. And that's something that King Woods is still bringing. But there's a difference between being entertaining. There's a difference between being a part of the show, a great part of the show that you look forward to, and one of the focal points, one of the top stars. And on SmackDown and on WWE programming. Now Roman Reigns has done this in the past. He's been champion for over a year, and he put over guys like Drew McIntyre just a year ago at the Survivor Series. McIntyre lost, but he still looked like $1 million against the Tribal Chief. He put over guys like Cesaro and main event Jey Uso, who elevated their game in that wrestling ring. But the main difference here is that it did not transcend past that. And yes, some of the blame is on WWE Creative because they haven't been able to stick a great character or a great characterization or a great story to each of these characters after their interaction with the Tribal Chief. Main event Jey Uso put on great matches, and he had quite a struggle to join the bloodline, but he eventually did, and now he's just one of Roman Reigns' lackeys. Not quite what you want. Drew McIntyre, he was WWE Champion. He kept that title until he lost it to Bobby Lashley. And since then, even though McIntyre is still viewed as a top star, he is, for lack of a better term, an afterthought. Which is not something that I want to say about the Scottish Warrior, but right now on programming, on WWE programming. Every time we see him on SmackDown, he's not going after the Tribal Chief. He's not in any big rivalry or feud yet. So we have to wait and see on that. Then we look at Cesaro, who I believe his whole interaction with Reigns was after his big rivalry and his big feud with Seth Rollins. But that was just one and done. Cesaro did give Roman Reigns a run for his money. He did look great in that losing effort against Roman Reigns, but then he disappeared from WWE programming altogether. He has not done anything of note since, other than this past Friday night, call out Ridge Holland and try to defend his former partner Sheamus, which again, that seems like a rivalry, a feud that is going to keep Cesaro in his place or is meant to elevate Ridge Holland, not the other way around. Again, you can blame it on WWE creative writing, which has a lot of faults in of itself, but that is WWE's big goal for the end of the year. I think they selected the perfect foil for Roman Reigns heading into the new year. When, like I said, they have no rush to put the World Championship on the line or to put the world title on anybody else other than the champion who has it right now. And I certainly don't see Reigns versus King Woods for the title at the Royal Rumble in January. Maybe on day one, the very first pay-per-view of 2022. Maybe, if they make it that far. But as of right now, heading into WrestleMania, I see Roman Reigns defending the Universal Championship without a shadow of a doubt. He's making it to WrestleMania 38 with that title intact. And he's defending against one of three men. And I'm saying this right now. It's November 18th, 2021. 6 months away from WrestleMania. And I'm calling it right now. Roman Reigns is defending his championship against one of three men. Whether that be a returning Rock, which is what everybody wants, and I would certainly pop for that. Or Brock Lesnar once he returns from his suspension. But then again, on one of the first few weeks of December, he's going to be at the Staples Center for SmackDown, and he's going to buy a ticket. He's threatened Roman Reigns with doing that, so we'll just have to wait and see where that takes him. And personally, if you ask me, I'd much rather have Reigns versus Lesnar at the Rumble for the title in a no DQ, no countout match. Just have a clear-cut winner at the end of it all. Just have that happen. I would much rather prefer that than to have him go for a third time in a row. Excuse me, not in a row, but for a third time at WrestleMania, Reigns versus Lesnar. I want to see him mix it up with someone different. And my choice, you already know how I feel about part-time stars being in the main event of WrestleMania. I don't like it. It doesn't matter if it's Brock Lesnar. It doesn't matter if it's The Rock versus Reigns, which would obviously be the biggest match possible for WrestleMania. If it were up to me, I'd do Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre in a rematch for the Universal Championship at WrestleMania. Two of your biggest current stars in the biggest main event of WrestleMania. I mean, you don't go all the way to 1999 when The Rock was champion, and instead of having your biggest star up to that point, Stone Cold, go up against him, you bring back a star from yesteryear, be that Macho Man or Hulk Hogan, and to challenge The Rock for the title. Even though that would be big. And I'm not saying McIntyre is Stone Cold Steve Austin or he's any big as Stone Cold was back in the day. All I'm saying is the 2010s, pretty much all we had were part-timers in main events of WrestleMania. Let's change that. Let's bring back what WrestleMania should be about, and that is two of your biggest current stars, two of your biggest current workers in the main event for the most prestigious championship you've got. And like I said, King Woods is going to have to find a way to elevate himself and have Reigns elevate him even in defeat during the next few weeks. After Survivor Series, this is the rivalry that we'll be seeing on Friday Night SmackDown on Fox. So we'll just have to wait and see. Do you think Roman Reigns can elevate King Woods and actually make him a bona fide main eventer? Or is this just another run-of-the-mill opponent for Roman Reigns on his route to a WrestleMania? Leave your thoughts, comments on the comment section below. And finally, just to end this show for today, just a few weeks ago, a historic company in Ring of Honor Wrestling announced that they were going on hiatus. Not only that, but they probably weren't going to be back until April of 2022 during WrestleMania weekend, where most fans this next year in Dallas are gonna unite. They're gonna attend Dallas, Texas, and the Dallas area to be a part of WrestleMania weekend and to attend all these different shows that every single company should take advantage of and put on shows during that WrestleMania weekend. And it was shocking because not only did they announce that they were going on hiatus and that their upcoming pay-per-view in December, Final Battle, would be the last stop before that hiatus started, but they also released every single star on their roster. They're not keeping anyone under contract at Ring of Honor Wrestling. Not a single one of them is sticking with Ring of Honor according to the company. Now, to clarify, that doesn't mean that they aren't going to get paid the rest of their contract. For those superstars and wrestlers that were employed by Ring of Honor until the end of the year, in December, they're still going to pay that. For those wrestlers who were still under contract with Ring of Honor until April of 2022, they're still going to get paid up to that point. At least that is my understanding. And also my understanding is that those superstars, the wrestlers that have contracts that supersede or go past April of 2022, well, Sinclair Broadcasting, which is Ring of Honor's parent company, will get into a meeting with each and every single one of them that has one of those contracts and try to come out with a buyout, come out with an offer which favors both parts. Because at the end of the day, what Ring of Honor has stated is that they are redefining their company, they are restructuring their vision for what Ring of Honor Wrestling will be in 2022 and beyond. And the rumors are circulating that Ring of Honor Wrestling is not going to be a top company anymore. It's not going to hire wrestlers. They're not going to have them under contract. It's going to be one and done. It's going to be a lot like I think how Evolve and Pro Wrestling Korea, among others, function. You want to work with us. You want to work our shows. You come in for this event. We pay you per event, and then you could still go and re-sign or sign with AEW, much like Jay Lethal did at Full Gear just a week ago. You could sign with Impact Wrestling, you could sign with WWE, with NXT, with Major League Wrestling, with the NWA, with the New Japan Pro Wrestling. You could go anywhere you want. You will not be attached to us in any way anymore. Those are the rumors that are going around. That's what Ring of Honor Wrestling is becoming. And I've got to say, it's a shame to see a company in Ring of Honor that had so much potential, that was founded in February of 2002. They were about to hit their 20-year anniversary, and now they're not going to have a 20-year anniversary show this upcoming February. They're not. They're going to be on hiatus, which speaks volumes to what they are doing in terms of why they're going on hiatus. And that sucks. That really stinks because, like I said, I've said this in the past and I'll continue to say it until the day I no longer breathe, because I am a wrestling fan first and foremost. I do not care about the branding. Ring of Honor may not have been for me and may not have been my cup of tea. I may not have been able to watch that show week in and week out. Didn't mean I didn't try. I just did not get into it. But Ring of Honor was still a place to work at for all of these talented wrestlers out there. And at one point, we're talking about 2015, 16, 17, 18, and 2019. Ring of Honor Wrestling was the number 2 wrestling company in North America. In conjunction with New Japan Pro Wrestling, they sold out Madison Square Garden. All In does not happen without Ring of Honor Wrestling. It just does not happen without them. And now, if you ask me, if Ring of Honor Wrestling does disappear, if they do go out of business, it is simply and plainly because they did not want to take full advantage of what they had back in 2018. Sinclair Broadcasting did not want to inject any more funds, any more money into the company back in 2018. They did not want to put their branding. They did not want it to be Ring of Honor Wrestling presents All In. And they did not cough up the money and the offers that they should have to Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks at that time in August and September of 2018, or even December of 2018, when their contracts were up, to keep them on board, and Ring of Honor Wrestling might still be in a better place. A lot of them going on hiatus has to do with the fact that the pandemic happened. And therefore, they went 18 months without running a live event, without selling any tickets, and yet they were still paying their contracted stars. So kudos on them for that. Kudos to Sinclair for doing just that. But as you can see, that's just not enough. They didn't make it. And now, Ring of Honor Wrestling, pretty much what it used to be, is now going on sale for scraps. Their stars, or the stars that they had under contract, are now free agents. And later on in a future show, I'll go into, hopefully most of them find other homes in other companies. I have some preferences, but number one, I just want to say Jay Lethal, fantastic pickup by AEW. Now, I would have preferred him to go to Impact Wrestling, but that's just me. Their tape library is on sale now, as far as I know, as far as the dirt sheets are talking about. And I think the one that should be the most interested in that tape library should be AEW. Because most of the stars that Ring of Honor had are now in AEW. Most of the Ring of Honor stars that WWE had under contract are now in AEW. So All Elite Wrestling should try and pick up that tape library hands over fist, no matter what. That's up to Tony Khan. And all I've got to say is Ring of Honor Wrestling botched that. They botched in 2018 when they did not have All In under their branding. They botched at the end of that very same year when they could have kept the Bucks and Cody under contract, signed them to long-term deals, give them what they want, because they were the biggest draws you had, and instead they let them go. And what did Cody and the Bucks do? They founded and they created AEW along with Tony Khan, and now look at where AEW is. Ring of Honor, nowhere to be seen, but AEW is now the number 2 wrestling company in the world, and there's a reason behind that. And number 3, unfortunately, the pandemic hit, and that affected everyone's pockets. That affected everybody involved. And now it appears Ring of Honor Wrestling is, or at least the version that we all know and love of Ring of Honor Wrestling is dead as we know it, and they're going to go back to being an independent wrestling company, much like how they were, or maybe even worse, to where they were before Sinclair Broadcasting picked them up. But as far as I'm concerned, I want to ask you, the wrestling fan, what do you think is going to become of Ring of Honor in the next year? What do you think is going to happen at Final Battle? I personally think Jonathan Gresham is going to close out this era of Ring of Honor Wrestling as their world champion. I think that should be the best move possible for that incarnation of Ring of Honor Wrestling. And finally, what do you think the steps that Ring of Honor should have taken to still have survived up until this year going into next year? Leave your thoughts, comments below on the comment section, and I'll give them a read. Send your topics. Hey, if you have a different topic about Ring of Honor that you want to bring up on the show, go ahead and send it to ACB Wrestling Talk, and I will take it into account, and we will most likely make it a part of this show. But as far as this, as it's all concerned, this is the weekend. It's Friday. We're heading into Survivor Series. We're heading into SmackDown tonight. Enjoy the show tonight. Enjoy Survivor Series this upcoming weekend. And see you next time, hopefully, with a great night of professional wrestling in Brooklyn. I've been Alexis Carrillo. It's been a pleasure to be here today. Until next time, bye-bye.